Pereira's had his most success to the body tonight.
Oh!
Here's that left hook!
Here to back!
Oh, now a right! Adesanya's on one leg! Two more! Down goes the champion! Pereira trying to climb up the show! And do it!
He did it! He did it again!
Alex Pereira, the undisputed middleweight champion!
Oh my
I don't believe
God,
it!
he did it again! Oh my goodness! He did it again! He did it again!
Hello and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to our UFC 281 review, headlined by Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira for the middleweight title. As per usual, I'm joined by my regular co-host Tom Ballerman. Tom, I have to ask the question, did this live up to the lineage of the UFC MSG card?
Most certainly, Joe. Everything we would hope for. We got the intriguing striking matchup between the middleweight champ and his biggest rival in combat sports, Alex Pereira. Not only that, but we got a vintage Michael Chandler bloodbath, balls to the wall showing, and a whole lot more, which we're going to get into right here, I'm sure. Loved it, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. This card was tremendous. Let's just open with that. The most unsurprising part of this review. It flew by. Tremendous finishes, tremendous matchups as well. That's the key.
Well, it did fly by, Joe, and that's because they set a record for the most first round knockouts on any UFC card.
Is it 7?
I believe so.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Anyway, we'll get to those first round finishes, but first we must start with the main event, which finished in the 5th round. I can't quite believe it, Tom. He's done it again. Alex Pereira defeats Israel Adesanya for the middleweight title in round 5 by knockout.
Wow.
TKO.
Well, TKO.
TKO.
And I
knockout
think
sounds better, but
it does, but it wasn't that, Joe.
It wasn't that.
It wasn't that. Now, I got to say, I'm coming fresh off viewing it just a few seconds ago. We've been waiting to talk about this all day, and I've had the great pleasure of seeing that fight. It sticks very clearly in the mind, given its proximity, which is a great help to me. Now, we've got to start with that distinction. KO versus TKO. Was it a good stoppage?
Yes. That was a good stoppage in my mind. I can see the smirk on your face is suggesting you disagree.
I disagree.
Izzy was done.
No.
And the ref saved him. Mark Goddard saved him.
Izzy was certainly in deep waters. There's no question he had eaten some big shots. As the slow-mo showed, one of those signature left hooks going around Izzy's guard and landing plush, turning the jaw. But it didn't put him down. Pereira followed up with a few more. Beautiful hooks. I mean, the guy is he's a scary man. But for me, Izzy at the end there, he's still bobbing and weaving a bit. He's not on his way down.
From the concussive blows, he is on his way down. He's slumped forward. Like, to me, that's a perfectly fine stoppage.
It said nothing to you in Izzy's reaction himself immediately when Goddard stuck like he knew what was happening.
As most fighters would.
Not fighters who have been KO'd, Joe. They're not complaining.
I mean,
I don't want to see Izzy get knocked out. I don't want to see that. But I suppose what we've got to do is we've got to talk about the rest of the fight to explain why I feel particularly aggrieved and sorry for Adesanya that it went down like this.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Okay. Should we just go round by round and talk about it in that perspective and build through the fight? Okay. So, fight starts off here, and I'm just going to put this out there that going into the 5th round, I had Adesanya 3-1 up, and I presume you had the same thing.
Well, glad that you've got that faith in me, Joe. Yeah, I did. I had him 3 rounds up, and actually, I committed the cardinal sin in my judging in that I did give 1 round to Pereira, but originally I'd given the 2nd round, which I presume we're giving to Pereira. I gave that to Izzy as well, and then I thought about the forward pressure that Pereira had in that round and the takedown at the end of it. 3 rounds to 1, and I could have seen 4 for Izzy.
Yeah, I could have seen 4 as well. That second one was close. First round was very close as well, up until that final moment at the end, with Izzy landing this fantastic combo of left jab, feinted the left jab again, and then threw a right hand that caught Pereira flush on the chin, rocked, and then lands a left hook just on the buzzer at the end of the first round. 10 seconds left of that round. Adesanya's finishing.
On is generous.
He threw it on the buzzer,
and then it landed after. Yeah, sure.
Come on.
No, I mean I'm not gonna try to dock a point or anything like that. But I had actually given that round to Pereira. I was kind of writing it, and I had my head down at the paper because I thought it was over. And then that was the standout moment.
Yeah,
but Pereira was clearly causing him big problems.
Yes, this became
walking him down, forward pressure, nice leg kicks.
Yes, really
key component which Pereira would build on. And the thing that was most distinctive that was coming out to me was just Adesanya's inability to manage the distance in the way that he normally can. To fight the fight on his terms. Pereira was able to get into striking range and back Izzy up, and Izzy couldn't escape out the sides.
Yeah, for sure. That's the main part of this, is that, we had Adesanya 3-1 up going into this fourth round, but those rounds that he won, they were incredibly close and competitive due to Pereira marching him down, marching him backwards. And it's like, essentially, Adesanya, well, what became very clear also by the end of it is that Pereira just carries such a knockout threat late into fights. Like, that is just something that is just, he can fall back upon, of just like, if I'm in there at the end, I'm gonna have that opportunity. And I think when Adesanya, he's throwing these low kicks and it's not getting rid of Pereira, jabs to the body, he's not fading.
He can't back him up.
He can't back him up. He can't back him up. Adesanya's A game is so good, it makes you think, should he develop that B game a lot more? And we did see a bit of a B game in the third round from Adesanya, where he took Pereira down and just rode him, just wrist riding him, pulling the wrist away over and over and over again and dragging him back down to the mat. And Pereira at the end of that third round was exhausted. I'm slightly skipping ahead, but let's go back to the second round. I gave Pereira the second. He landed some really big shots in that round. In terms of output and significant strikes landed, it's about equal, but Pereira landed some really big single shots. He landed like a really nice left jab, and then immediately with that left hook followed right behind it. And also, I thought Pereira's takedown at the end of the second was really good, how he sort of turned the corner to get Izzy down.
Well, we've seen so many people have trouble with that. And he took advantage of the, having the cage to run into. And as you say, turned the corner, just kind of just ran him down, basically.
Yeah.
I'm not sure DC was giving it a gold star. He wasn't ecstatic about the technique, but the point was it was there, and that was something that Adesanya probably wasn't expecting late in the second round.
Yeah, and also then you factor in Pereira's size into that as well, is that it kind of reminds you that the only other man who's ever taken him down is Blachowicz. And it's like, it probably needs such a size advantage over him.
220 pounds, something was thinking Pereira weighed last night.
That's incredible.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, really, really terrifying. So, Pereira wins the second, Izzy wins the third through the takedowns. And I actually found the fourth round, I think, is the most important round of this fight. I've got a theory about this round. I think Pereira punted the round to allow him time to recover from that third round where he looked absolutely exhausted and bedraggled, and he gave himself that fourth round where, quite literally in the first 3.5 minutes of the round, Pereira didn't really throw anything. A couple low leg kicks, nothing much. He was mostly letting Adesanya was coming onto him.
Well, Izzy was locking up clinches whenever Pereira would come forward. Whenever there was forward pressure, Izzy would lock him up and tire him out that way, which I think was tying in with how we thought Izzy might intermingle the other elements of MMA, in that, to resist that forward pressure, Izzy did go to the clinch often. Now, whereas earlier in the fight, in those clinch positions, Pereira, he was ripping shots to the body, he was getting knees in, and he was ripping uppercuts to the body too, as well as, of course, that signature hook. In the fourth, like you say, that just wasn't there, and the question was, is he just fading, or, as it turns out, was he saving something for the fifth?
Do you buy into that theory? I mean, if he has done that, and he saved himself for the fifth round, so that he has something there at the end, that's an incredibly ballsy move, and it's worked.
I mean, Pereira, he's a beguiling guy. I don't know what to make of him. He's just a very interesting individual. Starting with the walkout where he did not blink for 3 minutes whilst native music was thundering away and his eyes were laser focused. I don't think he turned his head off its center axis at any point.
I mean, and then skipping forward ahead, when he actually wins the belt, barely breaks into a smile.
And then he acknowledged his family in a very robotic way, and then just marched off out of the cage.
He's ice cold, this dude, isn't he? He's ice cold.
Yeah,
incredible. Anyway, 5th round then. Pereira then goes back to pushing Izzy back along the fence. Izzy's rolling with the shots, and that is the fatal flaw here. Is that Adesanya skirted along the edge of the cage, which he's done against a lot of his opponents, and he rolled with the punches, but eventually, unlike in a kickboxing ring where the ropes, you can lean with them and you can get that extra bit of head movement and distance, the cage isn't going to lean with you. It's going to keep you bolt upright, and essentially squared Adesanya up for Pereira to land on. And when those finishing blows landed and Izzy started to go, my word, it was, I had chills watching it. I was just I couldn't believe it. And immediately, I know probably you're thinking the same thing, the first thing that popped into my mind was Leon Edwards, where this fight and Edwards over Usman has now potentially ruined all future title fights in a way, in that I'm going to go into every 5th round going well, you never know. You never know. Whereas before, you'd be like, I can kind of see where this is going. But incredible. Absolutely incredible finish to this fight.
Yeah, I have to come back to it though, Joe. I'm not happy with the stoppage. I don't know. I haven't seen other comments on it. I haven't seen wider reactions to it. I know Izzy did acknowledge Goddard kind of in the ring after the event and kind of say okay, that was probably all right. I don't know. For me, he was weaving. Yeah, he was in trouble, a lot of trouble. But I wouldn't have liked to see, because I'm not some
sadist.
Yeah, right. But I could understand why, on a competitive basis, the defending champ, I think he should have a few more. Come on, Joe. We've seen champs be given a lot more rope than that.
Yeah, that's true.
And also considering he's winning the fight, he was in control.
Yeah, but you shouldn't factor that in. You should only factor in the moment that you're looking at. And if he's
hold on. We're going to get to it later. We're going to get to Chandler Poirier later. Now, without any spoilers, listeners, that is full octane, empty the tank, just wild shit. And Chandler gets mashed. Now, if it's Chandler in the 5th round after the fight he fought with Poirier, and he's in that position, I'm stopping it.
Yeah.
I'm stopping it. But I'm just saying, Adesanya hadn't taken that much damage. It'd been a very controlled fight. It's early. It's early. That's my position.
I think it's a perfectly fine stoppage, and
it's not an outrage. It's not an outrage.
It's more a curio of the fight more than the main talking point. Even so, that Izzy's coach has said to him, it was a fine stoppage. They've come out and said that, and it's if your corner's saying that about it, it's just what else can you really complain about? Adesanya doesn't seem too bothered.
Well, yeah, I thought I was going to hear from him post-fight. I found that very strange. We did hear from some people post-fight that I wasn't.
He did the post-fight press conference,
right?
And in an incredible coat, by the way. You've got to see this just for the coat itself. I don't know how many animals were killed to make it.
Joe's fashion corner.
But it was quite something. Yeah, should we just talk about the future then?
I think that's where we're at.
Alex Pereira is the middleweight champion. Is he in a way? Okay, there's two things that pop into my mind here. He's one of the most decorated combat athletes of all time now. UFC middleweight champion,
Glory champion,
and then Glory 2-weight champion. That's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible.
Can he defend the belt?
That's my other point.
Yeah.
Is he the worst UFC champion?
Well, this is just it. Yeah, I know one man who would be very happy to see this result, Joe. And
the Reaper.
He's finished grilling shrimps on the barbie. Yeah. The Barbie is closed. He's looked up in the sky and he's heard the call. The siren's gone off because he would love to fight Alex Pereira.
We're talking about Robert Whittaker here.
Oh, we are talking, yeah.
By the way, if for some reason Adesanya doesn't get the next title fight because he's not that bothered or he wants to just do something else, fine. Robert Whittaker is going in there in a wrestling singlet and wrestling shoes. He is taking Pereira down to the ground. It is just going to be like... I mean, Whittaker must be absolutely elated. And by the way, any talk of like, I wonder if Vittori, or I wonder if maybe Brunson, or maybe Strickland could get in there, or Cannonier, blah, blah, blah. No. It is either Adesanya, and if he says, no, I'm not bothered at the moment, then it's Robert Whittaker. That is the only answer to this question.
Let me just ask you there, Joe. It seems like your instant preference is for Adesanya, as we would normally expect for a 5-time defending champ and a guy who's unbeaten in his weight class. Do you put any extra consideration on the fact that this is the 3rd time he's lost to Pereira? Should he not go and fight somebody else?
No. No. What are we doing here? Of course, he should just fight Pereira again. I mean, that's what they should do.
I would have him fight Whittaker.
You'd have Pereira fight Whittaker?
Yep.
But you're a big Robert Whittaker fan. That's why.
That's beside the point. That's definitely not influencing me. No, I to me, I do. I put weight on the fact that it's his 3rd loss to Pereira. I'm not saying
really?
he's in. Yeah, I do. I'm not saying he's ineligible to fight him again. I'm just saying that Pereira, I think he's beat the man 3 times. He should be able to defend the belt against somebody else if he can do that. And obviously, if Izzy can go and win a fight, then he's next.
That's ludicrous. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. No, I'm not having that at all. It's a different sport, for one, that we kept citing in the previous episode, so I'm citing it again here. Adesanya was a reigning defending champion.
And Pereira's victories translated across, and in much in the same way that Izzy was outpointing him in the first fight, and then ended up getting stopped in the second. Pereira stopped him again, Joe. Like, what's this man supposed to do? How many times do you want him to fight Izzy?
I'd say one more time.
Joe, he's only got 4 fights in the UFC. Let the man experience the sport.
Lose to Robert Whittaker?
Are you 100% certain he loses to Whittaker? He is a big lad, Joe.
He's massive, isn't he?
And we know
ginormous.
what kind of takedown defense Adesanya's been able to acquire. Now, Adesanya did try to take him down. It wasn't super straightforward.
One successful takedown in 4. I believe. Yeah. But when he did take him down, it was. I mean, it was like watching John Fitch. It was like it wasn't good. I don't think there's anything other than the Adesanya rematch due to being. He's going to get it as well. Dana is obviously going to favour him for it. He's been a consistent fighting champion. It's just what it is. And also, people who are like ragging on him for losing. It's like, what do you expect? He fights consistently, for one, and he fights in an organisation that is not going to be giving him gimme fights. It's just, who's the next contender? We're not talking about boxing here, where people rack up bullshit title defences, and then, he's defended the belt 12 times. Yeah, but against no one good. Adesanya's faced the best guys. At some point, you're going to get caught. It just so happened to be against Alex Pereira, a man who's caught him before.
Well, let's be clear, none of those other fools are catching him.
No, that's the thing. They don't have the tools to catch him up against the fence. How many times have we seen Adesanya up against that fence, and it's Marvin Vettori and Robert Whittaker,
I've never seen that.
They've got him up against the fence, and they're either trying to take him down, no chance, or they're trying to land on him, no chance.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
I'm just saying it. I'm a fan of Izzy. I think he carries himself well. I don't understand any hate that he gets. I just think for the division, there are other options. That fight doesn't necessarily go away. I mean, if Adesanya becomes champ again and Pereira has just been, I don't know, wrestled to death by Whittaker, it doesn't diminish him as a contender to fight Izzy in any way.
But then
whenever Izzy gets the belt ever again, it's like, well, you know who else is out there? The guy who's beat you 3 fucking times, including 2 knockouts. Like, he can never escape that. Whenever you want to dislodge Izzy from the middleweight rooster, like the top, Pereira's that boogeyman, Joe. I mean,
but are we going to just let's say he fights Whittaker and loses, and then Adesanya faces Whittaker again for a third time, and let's say he beats Whittaker again. Like, we're just going to have to then wait of like, okay, now you have to fight Pereira again. I don't like this. The reason why I like the Adesanya rematch is it keeps the division clean. Of like, if Pereira beats him again, then
Adesanya enters the Whittaker zone, right, where Whittaker is with Adesanya.
Exactly. And then Adesanya then has to... But then it's like, okay, but it offers up a route then for these guys. Whereas if he fights Whittaker and loses, it muddies the water a bit.
What about if Pereira goes up to heavyweight?
Well, that was my other question. Is if Prochazka beats Teixeira, Alex Pereira versus Prochazka for the light heavyweight title?
The prodigal son of Danbury, North Connecticut, or wherever the fuck, with Teixeira's found home.
Yeah.
Right, Joe, I think we've got to move on to the other title fight on this card.
Yes, Zhang Weili defeats Carla Esparza with it's not a rear naked choke, it's a side naked choke from a crucifix.
With a bit of crucifix thrown in.
This was quite impressive from Zhang, I must say, that in the grappling exchanges, when you thought they were going to be separated, Zhang was just like, no, I'm diving back in. I'm diving right back in there. She's clearly learnt a lot and is wanting to demonstrate it. And she went in there against the best wrestler in that division and just out-grappled her and outworked her.
Joe, she absolutely blew her away.
She smashed her.
She smashed her. In much in the same fashion that we were all calling for. I guess it kind of surprised me just how... I mean, I knew there was going to be a gulf. And we know that Weili's strong. But the best wrestler in that division... Just couldn't. Just like, Carla had the technique, she had the positions, but Weili just exploded out of them, and there was such a clear mismatch. Yeah,
and like there were points where you're thinking, oh, Carla's going to start to get out of this, and then just Weili dragged her back down. It was just like, no. I'm setting the terms of this fight, and really did demonstrate that she is the best strawweight going. I know she's lost to Naomi Nunes twice. That second one is very contentious for me. I had Zhang Weili winning it personally. Okay, fine, whatever. But yeah, she took Esparza to task really, and just kind of almost not made a mockery of her, but showed the gap between them.
It's instant rematch for me, Joe. No, I'm definitely not serious. No, I mean, there's just a huge gulf here, and I mean, what can you say? I don't want to be disparaging about Esparza.
No,
but if I'm going to be, then I'm being disparaging about the whole division.
I mean,
but I don't know how Esparza is at that championship caliber. Like,
well, she beat Yan Xiaonan brutally, and then she had one of the strangest title fights I've ever seen against Rose Namajunas, and won the title for a second time, and then she goes to defend it for the first time and then loses it again on the first attempt like she did the first time. Yeah,
but I don't know. I guess you're only further reinforcing what I'm saying in that she's indisputably amongst the elite of her division, and yet she doesn't look like she really belongs in there with Weili.
The thing with like women's MMA is that like there's a lot of fighters who are good at like one element of it, and then the rest of their skills are like not on the same level.
How can we even say she's good at it when she just gets outpowered?
Because Weili's that good. Weili's
but she is. Good. But Weili is not a wrestler.
Yeah, but Weili's a good MMA fighter.
No, but Weili got taken down and held down by Rose
a year ago.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. In 1 year, she's advanced to a level where Carla, the most dominant wrestler in the division, can't wrestle with her.
I don't know. Right, should we move on? Okay, Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos. Book it. Right, now let's talk about what we want to talk about. The violence weight fight. Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. Poirier wins... I couldn't quite believe this, actually. Wins by rear naked choke in the third round. Now, we're going to get into the gore. We're going to get into the brutality of this fight. How did you have it scored going into the third?
So, I had round one for Chandler.
Same.
despite the last minute, which did nothing to further Chandler's future health, nor his chances of winning the fight. Yeah. But this is Michael Chandler. This is what I'm saying. Carbon copy of last time out against Gaethje, just letting it all hang out there, even when he's having good moments. But I thought it was a great first round for Chandler. Obviously unleashing those huge combos. Starting there was a little bit of like light feeding out in the first minute, and then it just got progressively wilder from there. With Chandler, of course, getting that takedown in that round as well. Yeah.
It was quite interesting as well because like Chandler's combos in that first round were a lot longer than they usually were. Like he was adding, like,
he was unloading.
He was adding an extra 2-3 shots, and Poirier made this point as well: is that if he threw a straight shot, he might have got me out of there, and he's winging these shots, and it's like because of just how Chandler's
seeing them come in and kind of rolling with them a little bit.
There's a great replay of that where you see Poirier's got his guard up and he's just blocking these shots, but it's like Chandler's just not going anywhere. And again, if he did throw it, but the thing is with Chandler, how he talks through it and really whips it round. It's like it's quite something. There was also a really sick hand trap right hand that Chandler landed, pulling Poirier's hand away. That was really good. And then also a suplex. He suplexed him as well.
That's when he still had that full explosive power. But nonetheless, the commentators ended the round with the comment, "Chandler's face is destroyed." I think that was a Joe Roganism.
Oh God, Rogan was so bad tonight. He said to Pereira, "This is your 5th MMA fight, a man who's now got an official record of 7-1." Right. Obviously, maths is not a strong point for Americans, which we'll talk about when we get into the early prelims. But anyway,
he also didn't. He didn't ask him what he wanted next.
I hate it when they don't do that.
Yeah,
it's like a call out every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
But we move on to the second. So we both agreed then on the first. It went to Poirier. The second
to Chandler.
Sorry. We both agree it went to Chandler. Yeah. Round 2. Now, of course, this was Chandler getting a takedown straight away, and obviously no dispute, I'm sure, about that second round.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Seeing Chandler like
fighting smart,
trying to win the fight,
fighting smart,
trying to win the fight.
What he promised us.
Yeah, and it's like it's working. You're like, oh my God, Mike Chandler's actually doing it. It's not a 10-8, by the way.
No, you got to do damage.
Yeah, exactly.
And fish hooks don't count.
No, that was dirty, wasn't it? But he was maintaining position.
Yes, by clawing at Poirier's mouth to try to lock in the RNC. That was...
Yeah. What do you make of that? Is that like...
I couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. I was like, that's a good technique. Why has no one tried that before? But one man who didn't like it was Poirier.
No, he did not.
As he made clear post-fight. No, I mean, Joe, it's disgraceful is what it is.
It's dirty. It's very dirty.
And ultimately, the ref should be doing more.
But it's kind of mad, isn't it? We're seeing this in this sport and we're going like, that's dirty and out of order. Like, there needs to be some order, doesn't there, at some stage?
I think we should just be clear about what we're expressing outrage around here, all right?
Yeah.
So Chandler's got his back.
Yeah. He's on Poirier's back. Poirier's on his knees. He's got one arm down posting.
Mm-hmm. And Chandler's got one arm around the jaw. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to sink in the rear naked choke, so he's trying to get the arm underneath the neck. However, Poirier doesn't want that to happen.
Of course,
Chandler decides that's going to happen by employing 2 of his fingers in Poirier's mouth to yank his head up and lift the neck up so he can get that choke in. I mean, imagine if it had gone down like that.
Did you hear Chandler talk about it post-fight? In the post-fight press conference.
No, I haven't got to that.
He said, "Oh yeah, my fingers slipped into his mouth, and then he bit on my hand, and I was trying to pull my fingers out, which then pulled his head up." I was just like, "Okay, sure." Which then also an incredible bit as well. I just sent you the clip of it of these massive blood clots coming out of Chandler's nose all over Poirier, into his mouth, all over his chest. Disgusting. Chandler talked about that and said. Well, Poirier said he did that deliberately, which I think is probably the case, don't you think?
It looked like Chandler's nose that it was already bust up. I think it first finally gave way and the floodgates opened. It didn't look intentional to me.
Poirier said that was intentional. Chandler said that was the result of gravity. That's how he described it. So, I mean, it was certainly something. I did find this fight actually quite homoerotic. I don't know about you. Maybe it's because they're both quite good-looking men, so it's just like, you know.
I mean, we love these guys, Joe. Let's be honest.
This was perfect. It was
Poirier is an absolute dog.
Oh my god! The end of that first round was like classic Dustin Poirier, of like the avalanche, the hooks. You know, it's just like the straights coming straight down the middle. That right hand that crunched Chandler up against the cage. Oh god!
And when Poirier's hurt, when he's in the trenches, you know, that's he still has that clarity of mind.
That Masvidal quote of just like when he said, "When the bullets are flying, the person I want next to me is Dustin Poirier." And then let's get to the third round. Poirier subbed Chandler after getting taken down. Chandler got a high crotch, lifted him up, Daniel Cormier style, slammed him down, but Poirier reversed the position, and as
Chandler kind of fell off. Chandler ended up needing to try to take the back, and it didn't have it.
As DC pointed out, he sent him the wrong way. If he sent him the other way, he would have rolled into his back from there, which obviously isn't what happened. Poirier got at the back, and very cleverly
it's a mistake from Chandler.
It is a mistake from Chandler. Poirier adjusted well, though, when he got the back, was that he didn't go for the choke immediately, because he didn't want Chandler to get up and slam him back down like he did against Oliveira. So he just sat there and sort of pulled him down, so he was stuck on his knees, just tiring him out that way. And patiently waiting for the rear naked choke to open up.
Now, you know this, Joe, not only because, of course, you're a great analyst and a prize capture of Hold On, I'm Talking, brother, but also because Poirier, after going through that enormous war with blood all over him, having been fish hooked and blasted into oblivion and nearly finished in the first, had the presence of mind to inform us of this immediately after the fight. That's how, in that moment, that's how much of a warrior he is. He knew motion by motion what he could afford to do, where he needed to be for that not to end badly.
That's the most incredible thing. The clarity of mind to be able to realise that and execute it in the way that he did, and remembering also the Oliveira fight to be like, I'm not going to let this guy go because I know he's going to slam me.
But Joe, most fighters, you know, when they've been in a war like that and they're being asked about what went down, they have no idea what's just happened.
Yeah,
they all say, well, I need to watch it back, and you know, they don't know who's won what round. They don't know who was throwing what they got hit with. But Poirier was right there, and it paid off. You know, he got the rear naked choke.
Do you remember the days where Poirier was being accused of having a bit of a glass chin?
No, that's a different era.
Different man.
That's a different man.
That's
That's P-head Poirier. He left that behind.
And then also makes me beg the question: just how good is Michael Johnson? He finished Poirier.
Well, a question many philosophers will be pondering in the years from now when they look over that man's record. That's what the modern Socrates will figure out. How good is Michael Johnson?
Now, what's next for these guys?
Yeah, what do we do with them? I mean, they came in here, Joe. Poirier holding that lofty ranking, second behind Charles Oliveira, of course. Chandler a little bit further down in fifth.
Is Dariush third?
According to the UFC, Dariush is behind Gaethje in fourth.
What? Put some respect on that man's name.
Now, I think we have to announce the latest development here in the rankings title picture. Australia, Volkanovski Makhachev. It's happening. Signed on the dotted line. When's it taking place, Joe?
February. So
put it in your calendar.
Put it in your calendar, indeed. So then, in theory, could that line up then for maybe Makhachev or Volkanovski? Okay, not going to get too far ahead here. To then maybe defend the title in May or June?
Makes sense.
So then, who are we looking at then? Probably Dariush?
If Dariush wins another fight, how can you deny him? Just how?
And the fight is Poirier that he should face.
Who wins that fight?
Dariush.
Dariush wins that fight.
Yeah, I'd say Dariush wins that fight.
Yeah.
Because Dariush, he loves swanging and banging. But he's not an idiot. He knows,
Absolutely not.
I need to win a fight.
Well,
so I'm taking this guy down.
Dariush puts Poirier down on the right side in that third round.
Yeah, exactly.
Takes the back, wins the fight.
Absolutely. For Michael Chandler, he's asked for Conor McGregor.
I think it makes sense, Joe. I mean, Chandler's lined himself up on this path that he would culminate in fighting McGregor. I don't think he quite realised that was going to be at 185 pounds. But it seems to be the case, judging by
wow, Chandler's having to cut down to that. My word.
I think it makes perfect sense because like Chandler, he has always been on the brink of this. Like, how good is he? He's definitely a prize fighter. He's definitely that league of Jorge Masvidal, like big promo and big figure. And the question is, where does he actually sit in terms of skills? Does he sit with the likes of Sharukian and Ismagulov? We don't need to know the answer to that because
we're never going to see it now.
No, exactly. He's here for a good time, not a long time. It's a good time if he fights Conor.
How about this?
But Conor, how can he get through USADA?
How about this? Michael Chandler versus Jorge Masvidal, 170, co-main event of any pay-per-view. Boom.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. Yeah,
it does sound fantastic, doesn't it? I mean, as they noted in the commentary,
who'd you lean towards there?
Chandler
at 170.
At 170. I almost think he flies through Masvidal.
He'd be giving up a lot of height on Masvidal.
I don't think it matters.
He's a smart striker, good takedown defense. I'm picking Masvidal.
It's exciting though, isn't it? It's an exciting fight where it's just like,
hey, we've been disparaging about this prize fighting stuff, but when they're guys who are actually like have some legitimate claim to the rankings as well, and they're not like fucking around holding up the top of the division.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that as well. Like, and also as they noted on commentary, Michael Chandler signed a new deal with the UFC, but it's like I doubt he's going to fight it out, and it's just like, okay, it's clear that he's probably got maybe after this one, another 2 fights left in him, maybe 3 at push. I mean, if I offered you this then, Chandler versus Oliveira 2, would you be in for that?
And I could have Conor versus
Chandler.
I'm taking the Conor fight. Assuming Conor has to come back, and we have to have all that stuff.
What about Chandler? So someone set up a Twitter account the other day as a fake Ariel Helwani, and obviously you can buy the blue tick now to make it verified. He then confirmed Oliveira versus McGregor at 170 in June, and it started getting reported that this was happening. Oliveira McGregor?
It's a weird one, isn't it?
It is a weird one. Be fun though.
How fast can Oliveira learn English? Well, how fast? Wait, hold on. Moicano, is he free, and does he teach English on the side to Brazilians?
Just talk about beer, steak, and just say motherfucker. That's all you need to know. We'll get to Moicano in a minute.
We certainly will.
Let's talk about Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez. We'll get to Edgar in a moment. Gutierrez is undefeated in 8 fights at the UFC, 7 wins and 1 draw. How is this man
at bantamweight?
At bantamweight. Incredible knockout here. Huge knee knockout. Drew Edgar into him with the leg kicks, fighting at range, knowing Edgar would have to come in. And when he came in, intercepted with the knee up the middle. Edgar flat on his back. And you knew he was going to lose, by the way, when they cut to his kids ringside. You're like, oh dear.
Oh Joe, that dear. Was. That was terrible. Let's be honest. This was a real low point for me. Gutierrez looked bigger, faster, stronger, more technically able, better chin, more range. Frankie has been a kind of sad descent. A man who was famous for not being knocked out has now been knocked out how many times in his last few fights? How many of them have been flying knees? Too many for me. I didn't enjoy seeing this.
There was, if you think about also Frankie Edgar at bantamweight, there's also the issue that he's had 4 fights at bantamweight. The first one was a split decision win over Pedro Munoz that I don't think many people scored for Edgar. Then you had the knockout loss to Sandhagen, knockout loss to Vera, and a knockout loss to Gutierrez. It's gotten pretty dark for Frankie, and It was the right time to retire, probably after the Holloway featherweight fight, for the title, if we're being sincere here. But if this is what we have to go with, then this is what we have to go with. This is what we have to accept. So anyway, onwards and upwards for Chris Gutierrez and the bantamweight division. Tom, I'm going to ask you this question. Who next for Chris Gutierrez?
Well, Chris Gutierrez, I mean, he's got a bit of a profile coming off of Edgar.
A tearful promo as well. But I found it got me a little bit.
But it was, yes, I'm sure he's had a huge struggle. He just knocked out a 41-year-old man in his retirement fight with his children watching. It was
a break, son.
Yeah, I mean, it was captured well by Cormier. When he was saying like, "This is how we see our heroes go out." Really brutal. I don't know. I mean, do you think with Frankie dropping out, he was at 12 at bantamweight?
Perfect spot for Gutierrez.
He takes the spot. I mean, you put him ahead of Umar Nurmagomedov and Adrian Yanez, Jack Shaw. He jumps all of them.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, Jack Shaw's moved up to featherweight as well, so we now need to maybe move him away from that bantamweight talk, at least for the time being. Yeah, probably 13, 14, somewhere in there, I think is fair. Bro, he's won 7 fights in the bantamweight division.
Yeah, but Joe, impress me with a name. Who's he beat?
Frankie Edgar?
No. Who
else has he beat?
This is just it, Joe. I'm saying like he's not really. Somehow he's managed to find some fellas who are not killers at bantamweight.
All right, well, let's give him a killer and see. Let's give him, Yanez, or I don't know. Who do you want next for Gutierrez? Let's just put it that way.
I mean, I think you're right that he's in that discussion now, that he should be fighting in or around the rankings. But you just think about the unranked bantamweights there. No, I mean, okay, he should fight. Of course, he should fight in the rankings. 8 undefeated. All right. I mean, I can't really find a bad matchup for you. I mean, we just mentioned Yanez, Nurmagomedov. Then you're going up into the likes of Ricky Simon and Song Yadong. I wouldn't give him.
Song Yadong would be a good one.
I think that's a generous matchup. I think it's a generous matchup for him. I mean, I know he's beat Frankie, but come on, Joe. Everyone would want this fight. Yeah, all of those killers sat just outside the rankings. It should have been Dom Cruz.
What about a Sun Tzu?
That's a rough deal. I thought we were going to give him a fight in the rankings.
I don't know. A Sun Tzu just won.
He's not quite there yet.
What about Barcelos?
That's another killer sat just outside the rankings.
Well,
wait, no. Sorry, Joe. I didn't Gutierrez. I think Gutierrez. He already beat Barcelos. Is that not right?
No, Morales. Vince Morales is who he beat.
Barcelos beat Gutierrez in the Tough 28 finale.
Did he really? Oh, yeah. He did as well. My mistake.
Get him in there anyway. Get him in the picture. If he can win against legitimate opposition, then
Pedro Munoz.
I'm listening. I'll be very upset if they give him Munoz. I want to see him fight a young killer, not someone with a bit of a profile who's possibly on the way down.
Fair enough. Okay, now Tom, those 4 fights we just talked about, me and you picked the same fighters to win these fights. The only fight that we were split on in our predictions was the opening fight of this main card of Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles, in which Dan Hooker won by TKO, which was your pick last week. My word, Dan Hooker. What a performance.
Joe, they call me the Oracle around here. They call me the Oracle, and this is just why. I mean, you didn't have good things to say about Dan before this fight. You had a lot to say about Puelles. Yeah, please.
I'll put my hands up and say this. I had no idea that Dan Hooker still had this in him in a way. And I've got to say I was really impressed. Do you know what he kind of did? He kind of gave him like an old man beating. Do you know what I mean? Like, where he's just like, go on, show me all your tricks and whatnot. Yeah, I'm not impressed. And he just absolutely smashed him. And like, he did it in like a really technical way, like nice jabs, sort of like picking him off at range. And Pueller's got a Imanari roll into a leg entanglement in the first round. And you're like, okay, here we go. We're starting to see what he's got. And then he just ran out of all ideas. And as I texted to you earlier on, probably had a change of career mid-fight. Like, he didn't want to be an MMA fighter.
It was interesting. I mean, an interesting fight overall. The first round, when, I mean, definitely Hooker was already establishing range and he was already making Puelles uncomfortable with those straight shots, with that range. Puelles was he looked like he was not like wilting under fire, but wasn't comfortable.
He was unsure of himself, yeah.
But not to the extent that we saw later on. I wasn't like, I hadn't written him off in any way. Imanari roll, leg lock. How did you think it was going to go right then, Joe? I mean, he put Hooker in some interesting positions. It was
some of those positions
intriguing.
I've never seen before. It was very odd, wasn't it? There was one where like Hooker was almost sat cross-legged and Puelles had figure four'd his legs into Hooker's arms, and they were basically, Hooker's chest was into Puelles' back, just sort of like he was almost sat on him. It was very, very odd.
And Puelles, he was 100% committed to that position. Now, what I was looking at that whole time was thinking like Hooker was not defending at all from ground strikes because Puelles wasn't throwing any. But he could have been elbowing Hooker if he wanted. But what he wanted was the heel hook.
Yep.
Right, we work up to the big moment. They're exchanging. Dan's looking a bit out of his depth. Puelles, he sinks his hook in. You can see him grimacing on the floor. He's happy. He's waiting for the ref to stop it. And Dan's kind of looking at him like, "What's all this? Get off me!" And the ref's looking at him as well, like you've not landed the submission. Did you see this moment? Like,
yeah, I did.
Puelles was like fully extended. He'd locked it in. Yeah, exactly. He was squeezing, and Dan's face did not change, and it didn't look close. So he didn't have to turn on it.
Have you ever seen Dan Hooker's first fight in the UFC against Ian Entwistle? He got into
one for the diehards. That is.
He got into a similar position in that fight where Entwistle had.
You are joking. You saw this fight. You know what you're.
He had a like a heel hook locked in, and it was locked in, and Hooker was, and it was in, and Hooker's just not tapping. He's just, I'm not going to tap, and he just starts unloading shots on top of him to the point where Entwistle gives up the position, and then Hooker gets the finish from there. Like, I just don't. I think Dan Hooker's like one of those guys who's like, I'm not a tap into a leg lock or anything. Because remember also, like, when Makhachev got the Kimura on him and finished Hooker with the Kimura, Hooker didn't tap. The reason why that fight was called off was because Hooker was screaming in agony and the ref stopped it. So it's like a quote, a verbal submission. And then when he got him off, Hooker was pissed at the ref, and it's like, are you serious? Like, your arm was about to be ripped off and he's angry about it. I think Hooker's one of these guys that just doesn't tap.
Hooker's a psycho, Joe. He's a proper psycho. He is an absolute stone cold killer.
Yeah.
And of course we've seen him take so much damage in there. And we don't need to go through it again, but Barbosa, Poirier, Chandler, and Arnold Allen last time out before this. But then you're forgetting the clinical displays over Iaquinta, James Vick, Gilbert Burns.
The Iaquinta one had a similar position to this, where Iaquinta had like a knee bar in, and again he was yanking on it, and Hooker was just looking at him going like, I'm not tapping. He's demonstrated he's still got it. Yeah. I am slightly wary of his chin still. That wasn't tested in this fight.
Nothing, no, absolutely not. Players not that type of fighter.
What's next for Hooker then? Should we just keep him in that 10 to 15 range?
Well, he comes into this fight already ranked, already sitting pretty. One of the guys we might be looking at as a kind of, low hanging fruit, easy target. He's at 12. I don't want to see him advance from there, but I'm more comfortable with him, keeping the ranking. The problem is, like, of course there are fun matchups for Hooker, but he's got a family, Joe.
What about this? He asked for a fight in Perth. I'll throw a name out there because Hooker seems like he's willing to fight pretty much anyone. Terence McKinney?
Yeah, McKinney's been on the come up.
Dober?
Nah.
You're not that hot on Dober, to be honest.
No, I'm not that hot on Dober. I'm not. It's all a lot of hot air for me. I'd rather see Dan as a test for these young boys, you know. Like so you want to be a fighter, you know.
Yeah. Basically, what would be nice is if like Hooker, in the next year or so, fought some of these younger guys and sort of built up a bit more of a credibility as almost like a gatekeeper before you can then maybe start to move up, because he's only 32 now. Last week we were like, fucking hell, this guy's 32, but like he's only 32.
Joe, but the fight miles on him, yeah,
long and hard.
True,
long and hard miles.
Do you think we'll see Puez? Will we see him again? I mean, what was going on there?
That was weird, wasn't it? He just gave up, didn't he?
I mean,
he didn't want to be
TKO by teep kick to the stomach,
yeah,
not to the liver.
Yeah, after going to the ground a few times in the hope of trying to engage in something. It was ridiculous. It was a terrible performance. Is
your man, the other man who loves the heel hook,
Ryan Hall?
Is he still knocking about?
He is.
Let's see that.
Wait, what? Ryan Hall moves up to lightweight and these two Imanari roll into headbutting each other, double knockout. Okay. So Tom, you are the champion. You regain the title. Congratulations.
Sense of inevitability to it, Joe. I mean, you knew first fight of the night. It became clear. How soon did you know you were in trouble?
About, I'd say about 10 seconds into the second round.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's done.
This guy's done.
And then I wasn't even like angry about it. I was just like, what is wrong with this dude? Like, you should. Why did he do this?
Yeah, I don't know. He's got one of these. I wouldn't want to cast aspersions, but he seems like he's come from a nice family, good background, and he's just kind of gone astray. And he's a martial artist, you know. He went to jiu-jitsu club after school, and now you're fighting Dan Hooker in Madison Square Garden, son.
Yeah, and Dan Hooker, who's
a war veteran.
He's been in the trenches.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've just turned up as a cadet, and he's just like, you're getting beasted, son. Should we talk about the prelims?
We absolutely will. We have to.
Let's start off. Big Money Moicano is back. Bro, that was so sick. Rear naked choke from Moicano. The main problem that I have with it, though, is that Riddell was just like, I'm not fighting this. I'm going to keep posting because I'm going to post my way out of this for some reason.
Bizarre.
But even before that, jab from Moicano followed by a right knee. Oh, that was lovely. My word. Moicano then cuts, I mean, close to promo of the year that we're going to see. It's him and Buckley up for the award this year. I'm going to cut into it right now.
Renato, I have to be on the fucking ranking, man. This is disrespect. I took a fight, 5-round fight in 4 days notice. Short day notice. I was fucking drinking beer, eating steaks in Brazil. And they called me, and I'm come here. I traveled 24 hours, and motherfuckers disrespect me. I want the fucking bonus. My colonel wants money.
I mean, how can you not get fired up by that, Tom?
I love the guy, Joe. I love the guy. If my Cano needs money, and I want him to have it. You know, a great way for him to bounce back after that slight setback, as he keenly pointed out in that post-fight conference. He was eating steaks, Joe. He was drinking beer when he got the call up for that Dos Anjos fight. So maybe we should let him off that loss. Well, I mean, if we're going to let him off that loss, Joe, in that case, he's sitting pretty up there. In
I agree.
In between lightweight, featherweight, you know, he's good for both.
What about Moicano versus Hooker?
It does. I mean, that does sound fun. That is two guys who are in that gatekeeping category, you know, but very very similar profiles actually.
Armor-plated hard bastards going at it. What's not to love? Your pick of the prelim fights to look at: Ryan Spann knocks out Dominic Reyes with a jab.
Joe, I'm calling it. I'm going to stop shit-talking Ryan Spann.
He's turned it round.
I mean, he's just knocked out, as you say, Reyes, who beat the all-time great of the sport. I think we both agree on that.
Yeah.
At light heavyweight. He beat John Jones. 3 rounds to 2. He gets knocked out by a jab by Ryan Hall. Now,
Ryan Spann, not Ryan Hall.
Yes,
Once he gets knocked out by Ryan Hall,
then, yeah, that's a different story. I mean, yeah.
Does he hang it up?
I mean, are you how do you want to fall down on this side? Do you want to be more in the camp of credit to Ryan Spann? I mean,
I give credit to Spann.
It was a hard jab.
Well, you're also forgetting the 1-2 combo that was literally 3 seconds before it. That was so quick that like caught Reyes. So he's probably rocked from that, and then he throws this jab that just, I mean, he folded like a deck chair, and he was done. He was absolutely done. I think Dominic Reyes, is there like a grappler that he could face a bit further up the rankings that's not going to like knock him out? It's light heavyweight though, but I don't know. Ryan Spann, what next for this guy?
Well, no more smack talk on Hold On I'm Talking, brother. Like, I'm on the fence, Joe. I'm going back through the previous episodes and I'm scrubbing all the evidence of what I had to say, because I'm you got to put some respect on him. The guy has been winning fights by knockout, sits at rank 12 right now. He's got the likes of Volkan and Johnny Walker around him. Sure, he passes then. I mean, Reyes was ranked 7 going into this.
Give him Krylov.
What about Hall or Smith?
He's fought Smith already. Who was the other one you said?
Jamahal Hall.
Jamahal Hill.
I'm obsessed with Ryan Hall now. I'm obsessed. Just give me Ryan Hall in some context.
I'd say Hill and Smith were a little bit above him in terms of the rankings. Maybe that'd be a bit of a leap, but I don't know. Maybe, I think Krylov might be a decent shout, or unless if they fought already. It feels like they might have fought already. Sounds like one of those fights that's happened.
But Smith off the Ankalaev fight, doesn't he have to fight down? Sorry, they fought already anyway. Smith submitted Spann. And that's when I confirmed his jabroni status. Anyway, I'm rescinding jabroni status.
Congratulations.
I mean, the man can swang.
He can swang and he can bang.
What do you make about what he had to say post fight? He's saying like, "Oh, I never train usually. First time I trained for a fight."
Yeah, the longest camp he ever did was 3 weeks.
That's what he's saying. But he normally comes out and says that he's God's chosen warrior. And
by the way, he's not fought Krylov.
That's a war.
That's a war indeed. I like it. Let's go.
I favour Krylov.
I favour Spann.
Oh my God, he's turned you, Joe.
3 week Spann. He's turned me. He's turned me round. One of those mythical fighters. Sea level Kane. Full camp Spann. Here we go. Dominic Reyes. First off, mate, I'm with you in this camp, Reyes. I'm struggling as well. Just shave your head at this stage. Like, get that Barnett off, and
accept defeat.
Accept defeat. Whatever. Erin Blanchfield versus Molly McCann. Did you watch this fight, Tom?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
she smashed her.
She did.
It wasn't close at all.
It wasn't.
No. So, Meatball Molly, nice knowing you. Stick to the UK cards.
Exactly.
Once or twice a year.
Exactly. Yeah.
No MSG for you. Off you pop. Erin Blanchfield though, up you go. My word, that was quite the performance. I mean, I kind of wish Meatball Molly kind of rode the round out so we could see if it was going to be a 10-7, because that was a lot of ground and pound, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was total domination. I don't know what we can say. I don't want to be dismissive of Molly, but it was no through butter.
Should we just go quickly through the rest of the prelims, or do you want to leave it?
No, I think we'll call it there, Joe, because we did have some news that's just come in that we should get to.
Yeah, we should get to. Really quite shocking, this. Rumble Johnson has passed away at the age of 38 years old. Former title challenger in the UFC in the light heavyweight division. Fought Daniel Cormier twice. Had quite the career, starting off as a welterweight somehow, before finally moving up to heavyweight and then right down to light heavy from there. An immensely talented man with many brutal finishes on his record. What do you think the legacy is of this man in the sport?
I think he's probably the most fearsome knockout artist the sport's known.
Really?
I would struggle to think who can stand there with him. I mean, the highlight reel on him, of course, Glover Teixeira knows all about that. Ryan Bader, who went on to do, of course, quite a lot in Bellator. Manawa. I mean, the guy was on such a run going into the second Cormier fight that he went in as the favourite, having been choked out by Cormier less than 2 years beforehand.
Yeah.
But he had just been putting away people in such brutal fashion. Remember, it was the first round finish at Glover, first round finish at Bader,
first round finish of Gustafsson.
Yeah, that was prior to the first Cormier fight. I mean, yeah, he was truly a force to be reckoned with, and I think handicapped by weight cutting earlier in his career. And then having Cormier and Jones in your division. I mean, one's bad enough, two is a nightmare. And the slight disappointment we never got the John Jones fight. Mostly, actually, entirely down to Jones. Yeah, it's quite something, but, you know, our thoughts go out to his family. Bit of a strange end to his career, you know, that move to Bellator. He had the one fight where he beat Jose Augusto Azevedo with that Kamaru Usman pulling the hand away, right hand right behind it, knockout. But yeah, it was just it was a case of what could have been. Really, really is. Yeah, I think he was haunted a little bit by some stuff going on outside the cage. There were a few slightly unpleasant accusations made against him. I think that he did have quite a troubled history, Johnson, and it's it's, you know, it's of course a tragedy to end this way. Still a young man, 38.
Absolutely. Yeah, he had actually just such like a unique style as well when you think about it, because like he had very narrow feet, yet he'd knock people out with head kicks. It's just like you wouldn't have like a base to set up a head kick. He was just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to throw it. Like, he had one over, I think it was like Charlie Brenneman was the guy's name. I don't know if you remember that one. I think that was in his welterweight days.
2011, Joe.
Oh my word. Yeah, that was in welterweight. Well, yeah, quite something. Yeah. A unique fighter who had a load of potential but just never got to fulfill it. Anyway.
R.I.P. Anthony Johnson.
Should we wrap it up there? Let's wrap it up there. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back maybe next week to talk about the Derek Lewis Spivak card. Do you want to quickly run through that? Should I give you some fights off of that?
I think we should try to join the listeners next week.
All right, we'll come back next week to talk about it. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. You can contact us at holdonbrother69@gmail.com. Tom, you are the champion once again, but for only a short time. I will be reclaiming it in December.
I find that to be unlikely.
To my family at Christmas. So, yes.
That's all they're getting.
Right.
All right, Joe. Thank
you, Tom.
Thanks,
No worries.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.